Hello and welcome to BQ Prime. Today we have with us Mr. Ankit Agarwal. He is the Managing Director of STL, Sterlite Technologies Limited, one of the largest optical solutions provider in the world. Hello and welcome to BQ Prime, Mr. Agarwal.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
So we were witness today to one of the best state-of-the-art facilities in Aurangabad for optical fiber and cables. And we also saw your glass manufacturing unit today here. So given that the kind of telecom revolution that the India is going through and the 5G revolution we are picking up on, do you think that these factories or the manufacturing units are capable to handle that kind of pressure or the demand that would come up in the country?
Yeah, absolutely. Firstly, thank you for having me on this show. So, from our perspective, we are extremely excited about supporting the country in towards its pursuit of 5G, really making sure that every citizen of the country gets access to high quality data. We've already seen in the 4G revolution the way India has taken global leadership in terms of data consumption, data usage, and I think that will further accelerate with 5G. From that perspective, we've actually been investing actively in our manufacturing capacities across from glass to fiber to cable and as well as interconnect solutions. And all of those capacities are largely now on stream. We've actually scaled up our capacities from about 30 million fiber kilometers a few years back to almost 50 million fiber kilometers on the glass and fiber side. And we're now adding to our cable capacity, taking to 42 million fiber kilometers. So as all these facilities and capacities are coming on stream, we're actually very well set up for meeting the growing demand for India on the 5G side.
Okay, and what kind of demand we foresee, like, going ahead up to 2024, 25?
Yeah.
What kind of demand we foresee for the
Yeah,
country?
absolutely. So I think firstly, once the auctions were completed in terms of spectrum auctions, we actually pretty quickly saw the telecom operators actively accelerate their deployments of the optical fiber. So that's already kicked off. Our own view is that there's probably a converged network that will get built up, which is essentially a tremendous amount of fiber required for connecting the towers. Today, we have about 30-35% of our towers with backhaul on fiber. That has to go to about 80 to 90%. So that's one big important shift. The second part is with every tower, you probably need 3 to 4 small cells. So all of these small cells will need to have backhaul on fiber. Third part that we're clearly seeing is the same telecom operators are also connecting enterprises on fiber network and providing them high speed capacity. So I think that's something that will come in parallel. And the last part, clearly, whether you look at operators like Airtel, Jio or other players, they're looking to connect anywhere between 30, 40 or 50 million homes on fiber. And I think that will also require a lot of fiber. So when we look at this converged network that is going to be created in India and equally in other parts of the world, we believe that there's a pretty strong demand for fiber. Today, India consumes anywhere between 20 to 25 million fiber kilometers. We believe that should logically increase by at least 2 times the way all this demand should come up.
Which are the major segments or the sectors where we see? I mean, one is telecom, that's very obvious, very visible. But like in our previous conversations, we have spoken about BharatNet.
Yes.
And then also how defense and other establishments would be requiring it. So can you give some more details on that?
Absolutely. So I think this is where, the government is very keen to bridge the digital divide. So I think very, very strong, robust network now getting built by the operators. But there's still a requirement, just like we see in other parts of the world, like Australia and US. Even India has clearly recognized that rural India needs a very robust fiber network. So to that extent, as part of the next phase of BharatNet, there are about 3 lakh villages that need to be connected on a very robust ring architecture, hopefully on fiber. So that's something that we're very positive about. We believe the government will look to take that project forward over the next 2 to 3 months. Some progress should get made on that. Once that gets announced, definitely STL will be looking to play a major role in enabling that network for our rural citizens. So that's one big requirement. I think the second part will be on the defense side. Certainly with our forces, there is a real intent to upgrade our communication network. And this is across, the Air Force, the Army and the Navy. So all of this will get converged to build a pretty robust fiber network for their requirements. And I think separately, another segment which is equally important is the data centers. So as the data centers are starting to scale up in India, we believe in the next few years, probably $5 to $7 billion will get invested to build these data centers. And these are not just the likes of Google, Microsoft and others. Even there are many Indian players like Yota, Control-S, etc., who are stepping up and building large-scale data centers. So all of this, we believe, will also have a good requirement for fiber optics going forward.
Okay. What really differentiates? I mean, I got to know that you have some 20% share in Europe,
That's right.
some 14% in US and
That's
other global
That's
countries also. So, what really differentiates you from others? Because normally developed countries have more innovations, more such facilities.
Absolutely.
What differentiates, and people, even companies like British Telecom come to you?
That's right. Yeah, so absolutely. I think that's a great question for us. At the core of it is that we believe that rather than going very wide, we want to focus on 15, 20 customers around the world, global tier one customers, hyperscalers, etc., and really make sure that we really provide unique, bespoke solutions for them. So very often our application engineers, our sales teams are sitting in their offices, in their premises, or very often in the field where the cables are getting deployed to really understand the on-ground challenges or opportunities. And we most of the time look to co-create the solutions rather than just go to customer and say, this is our brochure, take it or leave it. So that's something that customers really appreciate. I think the second thing is really in our DNA. We really believe in agility, and that's very core to STL. So our ability to understand a customer's problems, to work on it very, very quickly. For example, for some of our customers in UK, we actually do 3D printing of some of our solutions within 24 hours and provide it back to them for their inputs. So these are some of the things that are core to our DNA. I think the other part definitely is that the end-to-end integration that we have, really starting with silicon metal that you would have seen, getting into our core glass manufacturing, then fiber, then cable, and now the interconnect. The whole gamut that we have actually provides a lot of comfort to our customers as well, that we are fully integrated. We are only of 5 to 6 companies in the world who are this integrated. And that is very, very valuable to customers. Certainly, as you see last few years with supply chain disruptions, etc., customers are looking for companies like STL who can step up and give them that comfort that regardless of disruptions in the future, their supplies will be continued.
We also saw a lot of technological innovations that's happening in this fiber optic space.
Absolutely.
Not many people are aware of about the applications of fiber
Absolutely.
optic. Normally people think about internet and
Yes.
telecom.
Absolutely.
But what we saw today from your plants also that its application can be far beyond.
Absolutely.
Even in the space of security for thermal imaging.
Absolutely.
Even for your earthquake and stuff like
Absolutely.
that. So what are the applications where you can see it futuristically growing?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that's a good point. So one, as we said, that because of our intent to be global, we always looked at a very, very deep focus on R&D. So we have multiple R&D centers around the world. The one that you saw here in Aurangabad is actually one of the state-of-the-art. It's probably the best of its kind in India or even possibly in Asia. So there's been a very deep focus on R&D. We have more than 740 patents now. So at its core of STL is deep technology, is deep research and development. As part of that, we've actually been actively working on looking at what are the other applications for fiber optics outside of just the telecommunication and data transmission. So one of the areas we've been working on is, for example, using fiber optic as a sensing mechanism. And we're actually finding applications not only in oil and gas, for example, where you can have better visibility of the amount of oil in an oil field. Equally, you can use it from a safety application where you can detect through pressure systems on whether early detection for earthquakes. And there is equally an application on the defense side where you can use optic fiber for activities like perimeter intrusion protection, etc. So these are some of the areas that we found some application. We're actively working in these fields as well. And probably over the next couple of years, we are pretty confident in our conversations with potential customers that we'll be able to provide our solutions. It's very important not only to provide the solution, but provide it at such a way cost competitively that can be deployed at scale. So that's something that we're working on very actively. We've already filed some patents in this field and we'll look to scale it up.
Which are the sectors, apart from oil and gas that you already said, and defense, which would look at the applications of this?
That's
and
right.
like to.
That's right. So definitely oil and gas, definitely defense. I think the other one is definitely on safety. We're also seeing governments look at this for even smart city applications. For example, you could use the sensors to actually detect and monitor the amount of traffic and other parameters in a particular area. The other one that we're seeing within our own telecommunication field is that, for example, we have the highest number of fiber cuts in the world in India.
Okay.
So once you deploy the fiber optics, they get cut very frequently during road expansions or other reasons. So we could actually use the fiber itself to give an early warning before the fiber gets cut because of the drilling at the surface. So that's also a very interesting application that we're exploring, and that could give an early warning to the operator to stop the fiber from getting cut. So this would be very interesting, for example, to the data center players who need 100% uptime of their fiber networks.
Yeah, and the current challenge would be in adoption, mostly the cost side.
Yeah, absolutely. So the whole intent is this will really create value if it's deployed at scale, right? So if you look at the country's borders, right, the massive borders we have with Pakistan and China, etc. If we could replace the patrolling troops that we have, the large scale patrolling troops, with this kind of detection system, I think that would be huge value for the country and probably be even more accurate and powerful. So those are some of the innovative solutions that we're coming with. We're seeing good response from the government as well to look at such solutions. So that's something that we look forward to.
You said that you are planning to expand the capacity to 42 million
That's right,
kilometers. So what kind of investments we are looking at, and by when you are planning to do this expansion?
Yeah, so we've actually been actively working on the expansion on the cable part in particular. So the US facility is operational as we speak. We're in the process of both getting technical approvals and also just scaling up the capacity, making sure that the operation systems, quality, all of that is in place, IT systems as well. So that's the process we are in right now. I'm pretty confident of scaling that up pretty quickly in next few months. In addition to that, in Italy as well, we believe in the next few months the additional capacity will be ready, and similarly in India. So I think most of the investments are in place. Overall for the year as STL, our investment is close to 500 crores. So we completed about 250 crores for the first half, and the balance 250 crores will be deployed in the second half. And for next year, we're broadly looking at investment about 300 crores, which will be, most of it will be linked to the same capacity investment in the optical domain.
Okay. Out of your total raw material requirement that you have, how much you import right now, and how soon we can see that we can become self-sufficient on the raw material side?
Yeah, so I think there is at least on the glass and fiber part, there's been a lot of focus, and especially in the last 18 months, to make sure that as much as possible, to the extent those components or quality is available in India, we've been ensuring that we do that locally. So we've probably moved quite significantly in the last 18 months. Still, there are some unique either gases which are required of a certain purity or certain raw materials that are required, or certain metals. So I think to that extent, we continue to import them. But there's a very strong focus to make sure that we can be at some point fully self-reliant within India. At the same time, we're also working with some startups in India, both on the sourcing side as well as logistics side, to really make sure that we come up with some unique innovations which are built in India for our requirements.
Okay. And we have also heard a lot about your zero waste to landfill thing that you all are working
Absolutely.
on, and your plans to become carbon neutral.
Absolutely.
So if you can give some more details on that.
Absolutely. So again, this is all linked to our ambitions of how we want to be, and if we want to be a global player, a global top 3 player, then sustainability is not just something nice to do. It has to be front and center in how we operate. Our intent is not only to just tick the box, but actually to make it a competitive edge for us. That's something which has been very, very important for us. When we look at our global customers, some of them you spoke of, like British Telecom, the sustainability element of it is very, very important for them as well. So our intent is, how do we support our customers to achieve their sustainability goals? So that's something how we've thought about it. We not only want to meet Indian benchmarks, we want to beat global benchmarks in our ambitions. So that's where we became the first company in the world to achieve zero waste to landfill across our operations. That's something we're very proud of. It was certified by Intertech. We've recently achieved to be first in the optical domain to have net zero water discharge. So that's again something with the growing scarcity of water. That was something that was important to us. And now we've taken this target of net zero carbon emission by 2030. So again, this is something which is quite aggressive, probably more aggressive than most of our peers.
There's something else that you all have tied with a cement company. If you can talk about it.
Yes, absolutely.
On this.
So I think that's exactly one of the innovations that, when we looked at as part of one of our processes, we actually create SiO2 powder, silicon dioxide powder. And so rather than, having to dispose that off in landfills, we actually actively did some research. We contacted various industries, and we were actually able to find an application for that SiO2 in the cement industry. So rather than it going into landfill, it's now getting created as a raw material for the cement industry. So these are exactly the kind of innovations we would be happy to share with other players in the industry, so that as an optic fiber industry, we can become as green as possible.
Okay, and to conclude, how do you see, this optical fiber space, going ahead
Yeah.
as an outlook for FY24?
Absolutely. So I think we are very excited. We continue to see that there are very, very strong tailwinds. Basically on the back of 3 or 4 major areas. One is massive amount of 5G needs to get deployed. We have close to about 1 billion subscribers currently. That has to go about 4 billion subscribers. We think that will take 4 to 5 years. Second part is fiber to the home. You might be surprised that even like places like the US, which we believe are developed economies, there's still only about 20% of the homes which have fiber. So there's still a lot of work to be done there. Similarly, Germany, various parts of India, Australia, etc. So there's a lot more of fiberization to be done. Third part is we believe in terms of fiber to enterprise, fiber for data centers. I think that will be a very large and growing segment. So when you look at all of these requirements coming up, on top of this, governments are getting in very, very actively around the world. Just next year, US government is launching the BEAD program, which is north of $42 billion. UK government has a £5 billion program. Australian government is working on it. India has BharatNet. So when you look at all of these projects as well, which are all getting kicked off now, we are very confident that probably for the next 4 to 5 years, there will be pretty strong demand, particularly in the areas that STL is focused on.
Thank you very much, Mr. Agarwal, for such a healthy, interesting, and elaborate discussion. We'll meet once again next time. Thank you.